Hello everyone, today we are with the Netherlands government, Nathalie Olijslager, the Deputy Permanent Representative of the Netherlands government in Geneva. Netherlands, of course, a very important donor when it comes to humanitarian response. Also one of the main supporters, or one serious supporter I would say in the grand bargain. So Nathalie, welcome first of all.
Thank you.
What is the Netherlands' answer? Particularly its view on the priorities and the fact that the humanitarian response, the humanitarian needs overview, particularly for 2021, has increased to an unprecedented amount, nearly $40 billion US.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk, and hello to everybody. I'd like to say that. It is, of course, an unprecedented crisis, and like every crisis, a crisis shows the vulnerabilities. So if you have a natural disaster in a country, you know where to build next and how to build better, because you see which areas are affected. This is a pandemic, so this is a worldwide crisis. So I think it showed us where the specific vulnerabilities lie. I see it as a magnifying glass, so to speak, because we can now really see where we have to put our priorities or what we need to prioritize. For instance, we have seen now with the COVID crisis that really on a local level people were capable of doing things, of really helping out, because we couldn't send expat staff because COVID, all the rules didn't allow for that. And we've been talking about localization for so many years, but this past year we had to do it. And actually it worked out well, and locally the capacity was grown by giving trainings in a virtual way, by sending money in a virtual way, and it actually worked. So I think the crisis has some silver linings. I think it shows us how we can do things better, but it definitely shows us where we have to focus. And we really have to look, of course, locally, and we really have to see who was hit the worst, why, what were really the holes in the system. I mean, the health system, it really shows you where the vulnerabilities lie. But in some countries, the food systems are very, very much, rolled back, so to speak, and have been vulnerable, have shown the vulnerabilities. So I think we have to try to make those vulnerabilities into resilience. We have to really switch from being vulnerable to being resilient, and that's what COVID can teach us. That's what the crisis now can show us.
So you just mentioned that the pandemic has highlighted a number of areas that are important. You particularly also mentioned food and food security. Clearly, exactly as you said, the pandemic has exacerbated, put the point on those vulnerabilities. Whether it's food, with schools closed, UNICEF would say it's education that is a need. UNFPA would say gender-based violence has seriously increased. That's a serious need. WHO, of course, would say it's a health crisis, the pandemic. They're all right. But who in the end actually then decides on priorities? How is this best done at the country level?
Yeah, well, you say already it should be done at the country level, preferably maybe even at a lower level than the country level. I just mentioned localization as well. I think maybe it should be decided as local as possible, or as low in the line as possible, because it's a different mixture. There are countries that don't have a food crisis. There are countries that have a working health system, and the opposite is true for some other regions. So it should be, of course, a mix. And what I find here in Geneva is that the organizations, of course, need budget and need financing for their mandate. And so there's always a competition between all the organizations, because they all have a mandate that we've given them as countries. But then, of course, they reason we are responsible for implementing that mandate. And I think that's the wrong way, because then here in Geneva we're actually in competition with each other. And we as donors, we don't have that much budget, and then we have to decide, is it going to be gender-based violence, or is it going to be food, or where do we put our money? Well, actually what you want is a good analysis on the ground, and you want really a local mixture of what are the priorities there, what is needed. And that should be a different mixture depending on where where you look and what the context is. And that's why I'm really a supporter of the country-based pooled funds. And I would really want a fund to work that it can distribute the money to the organizations in the amount that they need it for that specific situation. And maybe you can even do it at a lower level, so not at country-based, but maybe regionally based. So for me, that would be the way forward. And I think also for my government and my minister, we would so much want to see more cooperation. We would so much want to see a needs assessment that is done in cooperation with each other, that is not done in competition with each other, because that would really, I think, make a big difference. And you need multidisciplinary approach. You need all this knowledge, you need all these organizations with all these mandates, but you just need them in different ratios, so to speak. So that you should attune to.
Thank you for that. So what you're doing, you're really advocating for a bottom-up process in that sense.
Yes.
I presume also that you would say then at the country level at some point there should be a decision. By whom is my question, in terms of these are the priorities and these are not, in the sense that so this agency should be really leading the response operationally and maybe this organization should step aside. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think every organization is needed. I just think that the ratios can be different. So it should not be a zero sum. It's not like this is only World Food Programme because the only problem here is hunger. Or this is only UNICEF because the only problem here is children. No, but maybe there are some good schools and they need a little bit extra. There is some certain foods, they need a little bit extra. What exactly is the mix that you need? Who should decide that? Well, I do think the new, the reorganization with the resident coordinators, I think that's a very good step forward. And I think also as donors we should work together better, because if we work together better, the organizations work together better, then you also have a better dialogue and you can fund a process of cooperation. But we have to get out of this old system in which we work. We've all learned to be more digital. So we can coordinate better, we can share information better. It's just now a matter of wanting to do so and finding each other. And so even if you're not there as a donor at the countryside, you can now tune in to meetings and be a part of it. So we cannot say anymore that if you're not there physically, you're not part of the discussion. I think that's something that COVID has brought us. And you don't always need to travel, you can really now real time be in contact with people. So that's also a positive thing, and that's something that we should use.
Thank you very much, Nathalie. I look forward to continuing this discussion.
Thank you. Have a good conference.